welcome back to Sam Can't or Can. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about crafting supplies. These are just basic supplies I think every crafter should have. If you want to get into any crafting at all, you're going to need to have a starting point, which is basically the stuff that you have that you can use for your crafting and that you'll always want to keep on hand. So come on closer, let's take a little look. This is some of my basic crafting stuff that I keep on hand and I always keep a supply of. This right here is my crafting, my little crafting case. Used to be a tackle box, I just repurposed it. Basically, I cleaned it up really good with a lot of bleach, put my stuff in it, and decoupaged the crap out of it, and I'm still working on it. So this has, if I'm doing anything from filming Sado to doing my own craft projects, this baby comes with me everywhere because it has all of most of my basics in it. It has tons of drawers, there's organization, it's pretty cool. So let's start off with glues. You're going to need at least 3 different types of glues. Liquid, paste, and Mod Podge. I know Mod Podge is a name brand, but that's basically the best sealant glue you can use for doing a lot of craft projects. Now, you really don't want to wash it in water. If it's anything that washes in water, you're going to have a different glue, but those are the 3 basic glues you're going to need. I would also recommend that you get some of this. This is E6000 if you're doing anything with glass. This, I used to make some of the jewel jars where you put dragon's tears onto jars. This stuff works so much better than anything else. I found that hot glue popped it off too easy. Obviously, Elmer's glue didn't stick it. This stuff's amazing. Use it in an open-aired place. It is very strong. You are also going to want to get, concerning glues, you probably want to have some wood glue on hand if you're doing wooden projects, fabric glue if you're doing fabric projects. Hot glue is amazing, but hot glue doesn't last forever. So it's kind of important to have the different kinds of glues for project-specific things. So it wouldn't hurt to just have a little glue box. I used to have one. I've actually gone through a lot of my glue supply. But glue is one of the huge things that you're going to need because you're always going to have something that needs to stick together. Now, I do a lot of stuff with embroidery floss, which is what this stuff is. I do a lot of friendship bracelet stuffs. And I also do fairy houses and borrower houses. So I use embroidery floss a lot for tying things together, for putting in different things, for using as rope and things like that. I go through a crap ton of embroidery floss. If you look at my incidentals basket, I have more embroidery floss. Always at least try to have some basic colors of embroidery floss because you don't know if you need to make something a little bit stronger. Embroidery floss is a good thing to put down in there because you can braid it up real quick, put it down in there, and it's going to make something stronger and not pull apart as bad. X-Acto knives, scissors, you're going to need those too. Now, X-Acto knives usually come in 2 different sizes. You can get them in 3 or 4, but there's 2 standard sizes that you can pick up at most Walmarts. This is the standard X-Acto, this is the mini. These blades are incredibly sharp. I always keep them in a specific location so I always know what I'm reaching into. I always get replacement blades. These things are easy to change out. If you break a tip off, no big deal. These have saved my life, especially with my jar crafts that I do. I do some silhouette jars, which you'll see here in a minute. And these things are amazing for doing detail cutting. Actually, let me show you now. So this is a jar that I'm doing for my aunt. And she loves ravens and fairies. So I basically printed this off on a laser printer since it does black and white. And you can look, if you see all the tiny details of where I cut everything out, I can get way more details with the X-Acto knife than you can with just a regular pair of scissors. And the same thing goes for the praying girl, which you guys will see here in a minute. Now, jute is another thing that a lot of people like to have on hand. Oh, I did a jar with this as a pattern. X-Acto knife saved my life. I actually sold a jar with that as the pattern, and that one was a pain in the butt to cut out to get all those little tiny details. Anyway, jute is another one that I always try to keep on hand, but that's because of the fairy houses and stuff. You always want to keep on hand craft sticks. You never know when you're going to need them. That's just another thing. It's a smaller thing that you can put into something like this where you can make yourself a kit so you have everything together. I have buttons and stuff. That's just random craft crap, but I always carry needles and thread with me anywhere I go because that's just a life hack, dude, if you need to learn basic sewing. Needles and thread go into anything that I make. So the obligatory glitter for anybody who likes glitter. And then I also think that standard gauge wire, or small gauge wire I should say, is a necessity for any crafter. Once again, this goes into you think you're doing a great job with that hot glue, but it's not staying together. Wire or embroidery floss are going to help you make something stronger if it's in the background of it. You'll understand once you craft more. So this is kind of a mess right now because we've been really busy with filming different things and I haven't gotten this quite cleaned up and reorganized, but this is my little go kit, as you can see, and you guys can ask Kendra on SG channel. I take this shit with me everywhere. I've also found that the nail glue that you use to glue on fake nails, really good super glue with a brush instead of having to use dot super glue. My hands shake a little bit, so it's easier for me to brush something on than it is to try to do a dot, because the harder I concentrate, the harder my hand shakes. So that's my kit that I take with me. Some other crafting essentials that you're going to need. You're going to need a cutting board for something. This is what I usually cut my jar stuff out on, my silhouettes for my jars. But I also use this. It's a great place to put my hot glue gun down. It's because I don't care if it gets hurt. This is a great place to do any gluing on, so you're not damaging any surface like your counter or your table. Because yeah, cardboard's okay, but what if you're painting and something gets off to the side? Or you're gluing something or something gets really hot, I always like to have extra protection. Now for glue gun stuff, glue gun, the mandatory crafter's tool of choice, silicone pad, like a silicone cutting board, really thin silicone cutting board. This is amazing for glue guns because you can put your glue gun on there, burn off the tip part of your glue gun, which basically is where you pull the trigger and get the glue gun going, and then you brush off that top bit. If you do that on silicone, it doesn't, like, you can pull it off really easy. It's not something that's going to burn through. I don't have a silicone pad right now. All I have is this. My silicone pad walked away with somebody. So I need to get another one. But I recommend a silicone pad, especially if you're heavy into hot glue crafts, because the silicone pad, if you draw a glue gun design on it, let it dry, you can pop it right off and you have your design, which is pretty cool. I also use Gorilla Glue sticks for my crafting when I'm doing fairy houses. Because wood glue, yes, that's awesome. Wrapping things is awesome, but sometimes you need some good old Gorilla hot glue to make sure everything doesn't fall apart on you. I also use aerosol glue. It's a great thing if you need a fast stick. I use it to pin stuff down sometimes if I don't want to have to hold on to something, spritz, slap it on there, we're good, unless it's super heavy. So the last thing I would suggest anybody have, obviously you need scissors. Pencils, those are crafters' standard items. An incidentals basket is something that everybody should have. It's just a bunch of random craft crap that you've accumulated. This is ribbons, this is washi tape, ribbons, decorations, you know, some paintbrushes are in here. I have a bunch of stickers and stuff. I have tattoos, little bejeweled things that I pick up in sales and stuff. The incidental basket will it's just something to have just in case you need some extras off to the side. Everybody accumulates incidentals. I try to keep mine down to a basket. I do have a ribbon collection, but that's because of some of the specific crafts that I do. But I would suggest trying to keep your incidentals as small as possible. Yes, it's nice to have a bunch of craft stuff, but let's be honest, whose craft is organized? Keeping your incidentals smaller or more contained or organized helps you in the long run. Also, try not to accumulate too much incidentals because you're never going to use them all. I know they look cute, but really do some stern evaluations on your stuff. I've had to downsize 3 or 4 times on my craft stuff because it's just stuff I'm not going to get done. The last thing I'm going to talk about real quick is jar crafts. Elmer's glue is great for jar crafts, especially if you're doing the silhouette stuff, because nobody's going to put any liquid in here. So you're basically, when you're putting this stuff in here, I use my fingers and Elmer's glue. I coat the whole entire thing in Elmer's glue, and then I put it in here. And then you can just position it into place. I've had this cut out for about 3 months now. I haven't had a chance to finish the jar because I've been busy. But I'm basically going to wrap this in Mod Podge and tissue paper, which is how you get this kind of look. So when you put the light on the inside, not a real tea light. No fire. Paper glue. No fire. Tea light. You can find them at Dollar Tree. You can find them at Dollar General during craft seasons. They look like they're little flickering lights. We'll show you this one. But don't put real fire in it. That's bad. But once I'm going to do this in red because my aunt loves red. So I'm going to do this in like a rosy colored paper. And once I get it done, I will have the top lid done. I will have ribboning around here to kind of hide some of my glue lines. And I will have a piece of, not felt, but kind of like a rubberized thing here so it doesn't fall off a shelf to cover up my glue lines there. You don't really need to do more than like one sheet, and we'll go over more jar crafts later when I'm actually doing jar crafts instead of talking about glue stuff. But jars are also going to be accumulated, especially if you really like the old rustic jar craft stuff that a lot of people do. So, you know, just make sure you keep your lids with your jars just in case you need them later. If you don't, you can find something to do with the lids, I'm sure. So this is just basic supplies any crafter should have. And we will see you guys later next time on Sam Can't or Can.